Champions League football, guys. Are you not entertained? Arsenal haters, turn away. Because it didn't turn out how maybe many people wanted it to be. But if you've watched Real Madrid this season, you know that they have been a shadow of themselves. And coming into the double leg fixture, I actually anticipated that Arsenal would beat Real Madrid. And on the other side of the bracket, Inter Milan showing a defensive masterclass in the first half, and then second half showing up when it counts. There are some good semi-final matchups, but we're going to talk about both games, so be sure to hit the like button, guys, and be sure to subscribe as well if you are new here. Now, I am going to start with probably the biggest of it all. Is Mbappe is about to experience a Spanish media warfare that he's probably never experienced before. If he thought France was bad off the back of leaving PSG, this is about to be a whole new level for him, because pre-game Real Madrid doing the Remontada hype, all these online pre-game gimmicks to not even lay a glove on Arsenal across consistent passages of play. First half to not even have a shot on goal, on target. That's crazy. When you got a front line, including Bellingham, a front four that have over 80 goals this season. Fun fact, and I heard it before the game, Arsenal starting 11 had 20 goals less combined than that front four. Bellingham, disaster class, I think. But I can't put too much criticisms on the players, because I just think that a lot of the criticism should fall to Carlo Ancelotti. I genuinely think that some of the decisions that he made in game, before the game as well, kind of had the leg going in Arsenal's favour way before they even kicked a ball this evening. Starting with Vasquez and Alaba as the two full-backs. Now, I understand Real Madrid have quite a few injuries in that back line, but having Vasquez as one of the more advanced players in the first half, and having Fede Valverde, who flourishes in those, final third, middle third, central spaces, half spaces, and you've got him deputizing for Vasquez, that's a poor decision. I understand also that Fede Valverde was playing as this deep line playmaker because Luka Modric obviously came on in the latter stages of the game, but I think that decision was poor. Far too many times in the first half, Arsenal were able to exploit the space that Vasquez was leaving out, having Tchouaméni trying to cover that space, having Asensio coming out wide to try to cover that space that Vasquez kind of gave up. And, Alaba, I said this from the first leg, guys. Let Saka run at him. Give him a 1v1, because Vinny is not going to get back to support. So it's not going to be a 2v1 like maybe other teams would have done. Give him a 1v1 versus Alaba, and he will have Alaba on toast every single time. And Alaba did something so silly. First 3.5 minutes getting booked. And I think that's where Arsenal should have exploited that a bit more in the first half. Now, Arsenal's game plan was, I think, very simple. Slow the game down, frustrate the opponent, get under their skin, hold on to possession when you can, and try hit them on the counter. And they did exactly that. Shout out to Miles Lewis-Skelly. Honestly, guys, Champions League quarter-final, playing as a left-back against a Rodrigo who did nothing all across both legs, actually, did nothing for Real Madrid, but I think is what he did in possession. Lewis-Skelly is an interesting one, because obviously he's playing as a left-back. He's naturally a central midfielder, so he's naturally good on the ball. On top of that, for an 18-year-old, in terms of the physical aspect and the strength aspect of the game, he's got that to a T. So he's going into duels against Bellingham and he's winning it. He's going into duels against Tchouaméni and he's winning it. He's going into duels against anybody else and he's winning it. What a game for Lewis-Skelly. But I have to, for me, speak about the best player across both legs, Declan Rice. Declan Rice today, I know everybody's caught up on the 2 free kicks that he scored in the first leg, but look at what he did today. Probably covered every blade of grass possible and, had some involvements in the goal. But for me, it's what he did that is not on the stat sheet. It's the defensive tackles, the duels, the driving the ball forward in possession, getting back in defensive transition, trying to make sure that Real Madrid do not hit them on a counter-attack, because with the pace of that front three, you would anticipate that Real Madrid would be trying to get in behind. Now, I've said this throughout the season. I've watched La Liga quite a bit and I've watched Real Madrid quite a bit. They struggle against defensively compact teams. They don't have an out-and-out 9. You see Mbappe trying to pick up those positions of a 9, but that's not his natural role. Sometimes he's drifting out to the left, drifting out to the right. When you have a team like Arsenal, defensively one of the best teams in Europe, let's be honest, missing a Gabriel, by the way, and you got Kiwa stepping in big time for him. You know, Saliba makes that error for that Vinicius goal, but when you're winning on aggregate, I think, you know, it's easy to look past that. That was the only thing I think he kind of put a foot wrong there defensively, because in other moments, in other duels, in other 1v1s, you know, he's getting upright, forcing Mbappe onto his, you know, weaker foot, using his body well, his strength. You guys know what Saliba does. But just in terms of defensively, what Arsenal does, people expected them to come here to the Santiago Bernabeu and have a low block and just be defensive. Like that Man City game, if you remember when they drew, I think it was a season or so ago. People expected that, put 11 guys behind the ball, but they didn't need to do that. And that is because of how bad Real Madrid are this season. Nothing threatens teams anymore when it comes up to Real Madrid, bar the name, especially in the Champions League. Everyone was talking about Remontada. I think everyone watched the near enough Remontadas from Villa and from Dortmund. But I came into this game anticipating Real Madrid to get knocked out. And you know what, guys? Football is poetic sometimes. Football always has a story to tell, because Kylian Mbappe left PSG, and now PSG are in the semi-final, potentially could get to the final, potentially could win a Champions League, and he's not going to be in that. He's not going to be a part of that. He left for, you know, the grass is not always greener on the other side necessarily, is what I'm trying to suggest. And La Liga still got a little bit to play for, but honestly, I've already said I think Barcelona's going to win that. Today, the only player for me that could probably hold his head up high from Real Madrid is probably Courtois. Courtois is the only... Like, if it wasn't for Courtois in the first leg, it could have been 5. It could have been 5. Today, he made some big stoppages, including that first penalty from Saka. And I'm not going to lie, guys. I hear it, Saka. It's big stage, Bernabeu, Champions League. You're thinking, yeah, this is my moment. Go for a Panenka. Didn't have to be, but he got his little goal in the end. And you know what? This is another thing of, like, football is about stories. This is poetic for Bukayo Saka, because he's just come back from his injury, you know, not fully 100%. And you can see Arsenal are managing his minutes. But leading up to this fixture, the first leg, he was asked in a press conference about, you know, whether he thinks that he sits at the table with these great wingers that are in Europe right now. And he showed over both legs that he can sit at it. He has a rightful seat at the table with other wingers that are named, in particular the ones that were playing in this leg. And I'm talking about Vinicius. Of course, Vinicius got his goal. I actually think Vinicius wasn't the worst player for Real Madrid. I think he tried to get going, was trying to get forward, trying to find those passes, trying to get those shots, trying to get those balls across the box. But essentially, Arsenal are too good defensively, and when Real Madrid try and come with this game plan of putting balls into the box with no recognised forward, you got Bellingham making late runs in, you got Rudiger at some point, one of the furthest players forward. I just don't think it was the best game plan. I don't think so. And you know what? I look at Real Madrid on paper, and I look at what Arsenal can do defensively, and I think you needed players in those tight spaces, in those half spaces, to get the ball going, keep the ball trickling, and just try and break down the opponent. You know, try slip someone in behind, someone makes a run in behind, but they weren't trying to do that. So maybe hindsight, you know, could be a thing for Real Madrid. They might look back at this game, look at it differently, but Real Madrid have qualified for the semi-finals, I think 12 out of the last 14 Champions Leagues. So we are going to see a Champions League semi-final matchup that does not include Real Madrid, the defending champions. And like I said, those gimmicks pre-game, mental. I'm looking back at that now and I'm thinking, you shouldn't have done that. But kudos to Arsenal. I think Arsenal versus PSG is going to be a great matchup, especially because they met earlier in the Champions League league table phase. And Arsenal, you know, were able to get the better of them. PSG at the time, I think they were still trying to get going still trying to find themselves. I think they found themselves offensively, but Aston Villa showed last night, you know, that PSG, you can lay a glove on them. So that's going to be a very good matchup. And on the other side of the bracket today, I mean, Inter Milan and Arsenal tonight. First half, defensive masterclasses. DeMarco for me is one of the... I know he's a left wing back, but he's one of the best left backs. If we're talking about back fullbacks, if we're talking about wide fullbacks, we have to put him up there. The balance that Inter Milan have on that left-hand side is amazing. It's too good. I actually think Inter are a dark horse going into the semi-finals. Everyone's focused on Barca, rightfully so, PSG, Arsenal. Inter Milan versus Barcelona is going to be a great matchup. And you know why it's going to be a great matchup? Because Inter can attack in numbers, they can defend in numbers, but also because of Barcelona, number one, their high line, number two, Inter's abilities from set pieces, it's going to be a ridiculous two legs. I think, this might be a big hot take, I think that will be the best out of the two semi-finals, one of the most entertaining games today. You know, one thing I like about Inzaghi is, like, he's turning the clocks back. I say this all the time. A front two, if you want to call it that, with Lautaro and Thuram. Today, Lautaro just stepping up when it counts. Unfortunately for Kane, getting that goal, which I thought he was redeeming himself from last week, but Inter are just too good. Inter are just too good defensively. I think that is the biggest difference maker for them. So I'm looking forward to both semi-finals. I've already said in my earlier videos last week, I want to see PSG versus Barcelona in the final. That for me is my preferred final. But I wouldn't be mad at anything else. I wouldn't be mad at any possible of these last four remaining teams ending up in the Champions League. But Arsenal get it done. Guys, Arsenal haters, including me, myself, turn away, because Arsenal fans are about to be unbearable for the next couple of weeks. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you lot thought of the game. Be sure to hit the like button and please do subscribe if you are new here.